the United States has just launched an economic bombshell that could crush its tourist industry for good. Imagine this: to simply visit America for a vacation, tourists will now need to pay up to $15,000 in a bond just to get a visa. No, this isn't a joke. It's part of Donald Trump's latest immigration control plan, and it could turn American tourism into a disaster zone. What does this mean for the future of travel in the U.S.? In an unprecedented move, the Trump administration has announced a new policy that is sure to send shockwaves through the tourism industry. Starting in August 2025, tourists and business travelers from select countries will now be required to pay a hefty bond of up to $15,000 before they can even apply for a visa. This isn't for a long-term stay or to work in the U.S. It's just to visit for a couple of weeks. The reasoning behind this move, Trump's team argues that the bond will help curb immigration violations. A higher bond will supposedly deter individuals who have overstayed their visas in the past. But here's the reality: the very people the U.S. hopes to deter are already staying away. Travel to the U.S. has become a maze of confusion, exorbitant costs, and frankly, frustration. The idea that a $15,000 upfront payment will fix these issues is laughable. In fact, it's more likely to make the problem worse. More and more people are simply choosing not to visit the United States at all. And it's not just the tourists. Canadian airlines are already pulling flights to American cities due to dwindling demand. The Canadian government has been quietly encouraging citizens to explore alternative destinations as the U.S. has become increasingly less welcoming. The result? A tourism industry in freefall. In the last year alone, U.S. tourist spending has plummeted by 22.5%. By the end of 2025, the country could lose an astounding $12.5 billion in tourism revenue. With this new policy in place, the situation is only going to get worse. The country that once prided itself on being the world's most desirable travel destination is now sending a clear message: we're closed to the world unless you're willing to pay up. But that's not all. This isn't the first time Trump has targeted foreign nationals with extreme measures. Just a few years ago, he tried to ban Chinese students from entering the U.S., a move that was swiftly shut down due to public outcry. Now it seems he's going down a similar path, but this time it's not just the Chinese or other targeted groups. Countries like Zambia and Malawi are already feeling the sting of these new restrictions. And given the aggressive stance, it's clear that many more nations could soon be on the list. What's even more perplexing is that other countries around the world are heading in the opposite direction. In Europe, Asia, and even parts of South America, visa rules are being relaxed. Nations are opening their doors, making travel easier, cheaper, and more inviting. So why is the U.S. going in the complete opposite direction? This policy doesn't just raise concerns about travel, it poses a much bigger question: is the U.S. genuinely trying to protect its borders, or is it simply putting up financial barriers disguised as security measures? Because the only thing clear right now is that this isn't about keeping people safe. It's about making a profit, plain and simple. The situation gets even more alarming when you look at the details of how the new bond system works. If you're from a country deemed high risk for visa violations, be prepared to fork out anywhere from $5,000 to $15,000 just to apply for a tourist or business visa. These countries are mostly ones with high levels of visa overstays, like several African nations, parts of Latin America, and even some Middle Eastern countries. The U.S. government claims that this policy is a measure to prevent people from entering the country and overstaying their visas. But let's think about this for a second. Is demanding a large bond really the best solution? It seems that in the eyes of the Trump administration, these countries are automatically assumed to be full of people who will break the rules, and so they must pay for the privilege of applying. The problem here is that this creates a double standard. If you're wealthy enough, you can pay your way in, but if you're not, you're effectively shut out. This is where the Golden Visa program comes into play. It's a fast track to U.S. residency for the rich, offering perks, like tax breaks and faster processing times, but only for those who can afford it. It's an exclusive club where money, not merit, speaks. This creates a two-tiered system for immigration and travel one for the wealthy, who are essentially handed an express pass to the American dream, and one for the rest of the world, who are left to deal with roadblocks, fees, and a system that feels like it's rigged against them. This is a far cry from the America that once boasted of being a land of opportunity for all, regardless of where you came from or how much you had in your bank account. But beyond the financial barriers, the implications of this policy are widespread. As tourism falls off a cliff, small businesses and local economies that rely on foreign visitors are suffering. In tourist-heavy cities like New York, Las Vegas, and Miami, the decline in tourism is already being felt. Hotels, restaurants, and local stores are seeing fewer foreign visitors, and some are even being forced to cut back on staff. This isn't just a problem for big cities, though. The effects are reaching deep into the heart of the country. Rural areas that rely on seasonal workers, including migrant laborers and farmhands, are facing staffing shortages, while local businesses are seeing a sharp decrease in foot traffic. For years, immigrants and tourists have quietly propped up the U.S. economy. From the hotel maids in Florida to the waitstaff in New York's high-end restaurants, these workers often come from countries where opportunities are limited, and they've helped sustain local economies that might otherwise struggle. Yet now these same workers are being shut out, or worse, discouraged from even trying to come. And it's not just the workers. Tourists contribute to the U.S. economy in big ways. They stay in hotels, buy souvenirs, eat at local restaurants, and use services that keep cities thriving. But with fewer tourists coming through, businesses are finding it harder to stay afloat, especially as international travelers are choosing other, more accessible destinations. Places like Canada, Europe, and Southeast Asia are seeing a surge in tourism as the U.S. continues to tighten its borders. These regions are capitalizing on the situation, offering easier entry requirements and lower costs, making them the go-to options for travelers. The economic toll of these policies is already becoming evident, but the deeper consequences may be felt for years to come. If the U.S. continues to shut its doors to tourists and migrants, it could lose its position as the world's premier destination for travel innovation and cultural exchange. The world is moving faster than ever before, and countries that embrace diversity, trade, and travel are growing stronger. Meanwhile, America risks falling behind self-imposed barriers that only benefit the ultra-wealthy while punishing the middle class. In fact, many economists have raised alarm bells over the potential long-term consequences of this kind of isolationist approach. Tourism has long been a vital contributor to the U.S. economy, not only in direct spending, but also in job creation and cultural exchange. Every dollar a tourist spends in the U.S. helps sustain jobs across a wide range of industries, from transportation to retail. The ripple effects of a declining tourism industry will likely hit industries in ways that aren't immediately obvious. From tech companies that provide services to travelers to small-town shops relying on foreign visitors to boost their business, the chain of economic activity connected to tourism is vast. In addition to that, the consequences on global trade could be severe. The U.S. has always been a central hub for business and trade, attracting foreign nationals who wish to establish connections, attend conferences, and collaborate on projects. Yet, with the new visa restrictions and the looming $15,000 bond, businesses will find it increasingly difficult to maintain international relations. Executives and investors will be less likely to travel to the U.S. when there are cheaper, friendlier options available elsewhere. As international cooperation becomes more challenging, the U.S. could face a future of economic stagnation and missed opportunities. Meanwhile, the Trump administration continues to paint these measures as necessary for protecting American jobs and preserving national security. However, the reality is that this America First approach could isolate the country from critical global networks and partnerships. While it's important to protect national interests, it's equally vital to recognize that the world is becoming more interconnected. Countries that embrace this reality will thrive, while those that pull back risk falling into obscurity. The irony here is hard to ignore. America's prosperity was built on the backs of immigrants, tourists, and international collaboration. From Silicon Valley to Wall Street, innovation and success were fueled by the ideas, hard work, and investments from people all over the world. Now, in an effort to safeguard its borders, the U.S. is slowly eroding the very foundation that made it the world's leader in business, technology, and culture. It's easy to point the finger at the Trump administration, but the reality is that this shift in U.S. policy isn't just about one man's agenda, it's part of a larger trend in the world's political landscape. Nations everywhere are wrestling with how to balance national interests with global connectivity. Some are choosing to build walls, literal and figurative, while others are tearing down barriers, recognizing that the future lies in cooperation, not isolation. What's especially troubling is that the U.S. doesn't just risk losing tourists and workers. It could lose the very essence of what made it a global power. Think about it. America was once a beacon for the world. It was a place where anyone, no matter their background or nationality, could come and make their dreams a reality. The U.S. was built on immigration diversity and the influx of new ideas from all corners of the globe. But now these ideals are being slowly eroded in the name of security and self-interest. This America First mentality may sound appealing to some, but it risks damaging the country's long-term prosperity. For years, foreign students, tourists, and professionals have contributed to the U.S. economy both directly and indirectly. They brought fresh perspectives, filled crucial jobs, and helped drive industries like technology, entertainment, and healthcare. But now, as the U.S. pushes these groups away, it risks cutting itself off from the very people who helped make it great. Consider the tech industry one of the U.S.'s most powerful sectors. Many of the world's top engineers, developers, and innovators come from abroad, attracted by the country's promise of opportunity. With stricter visa policies and increasingly higher barriers for entry, that flow of talent is being restricted. If these policies continue, countries like Canada, the UK, and Germany could easily become the new hubs for global talent, leaving the U.S. with a growing skills gap and diminishing leadership in tech. And it's not just in technology. Tourism, education, and healthcare all rely on international cooperation. Foreign students contribute billions of dollars to the U.S. economy every year. In 2020, international students spent nearly $40 billion in the U.S. funding, everything from college tuition to local businesses. With fewer international students choosing to study in the U.S. schools, we'll face funding shortfalls, potentially leading to higher tuition for domestic students. Additionally, the healthcare industry, which relies heavily on foreign-trained medical professionals, could see a shortage of doctors and nurses. Moreover, the ripple effects of this isolationist approach aren't just confined to the U.S. economy. Around the world, other countries are recognizing the opportunity to step in where America is stepping back. As the U.S. tightens its borders, countries in Europe, Asia, and even Africa are becoming more open to foreign investment, tourism, and talent. In a world that increasingly values global collaboration, the U.S. is on the verge of becoming an outlier, a nation stuck in the past while the rest of the world moves forward.